We all set?
You're all set, yes, Chairman.
I'd like to call the March 13th meeting of the Trees and Greenery Committee to order. Last month we had a Valentine's meeting. I guess this is our almost Ides of March meeting. We still had Dick Adams here. He could recite Julius Caesar's soliloquy in Latin, but we have the minutes of the February 14th meeting. Any questions, corrections for that? Okay. Tree removal requests, and I'll beat Dennis to it. We have some guests here. If you're here for a particular tree that you're
I wasn't sure why the trees at 323, the two black walnuts.
Mr. Chairman,
I'm sorry, we just need you to come up, state your name and address.
sorry.
And then,
Sorry, he was looking.
it's okay, right into the mic.
I'm Karen DeNicola. I own the property at 281 Cabot and hope to be living there before too long. And I had requested that the box elder at 323 be taken down because I thought it looked pretty bad and pretty dead. And I guess you all agreed, but now I see there's signs posted on the two black walnuts and I wasn't sure what was going on with those. So I came to hear what was going on with those. I didn't think there was anything wrong with them, so.
Absolutely. So those two trees were requested for removal by the other neighbor to
Okay.
the right on Islington Street. So I think it's a dentist's office. Yeah, so that's kind of the long and short of it. Is that individual here? No, for 323. Okay. The conversation I had was that it's a messy tree, that it's, you know, growing over the property line, and their preference is that the trees be removed. I countered that and said, there's really nothing structurally wrong with these trees. And I felt that it would be best to move forward with pruning the trees for deadwood or removing some of that brush that is growing over the property line and encumbering their roof line. And the individual still insisted on putting it to the committee for removal. So here we are to discuss.
Okay.
I'm curious as to the property line and how those trees would fall into the city's
I think just
jurisdiction.
at this point in time, because the city, it's the same argument for the box elder, because the city, I guess, is technically the current owner of 323.
Oh,
Yeah.
323 was taking.
Got it.
Um,
Yeah.
So we did the box elder in their backyard. There's a bunch of trenching going on behind there right now.
So, yeah.
I'm confused though, because the dentist is on the other side of the street, isn't it?
No.
No, it's
No.
it's a big building,
So that's
one over.
Yep. So that's 323, and then it's right there.
So it's like Harold.
If you actually go up a little bit more and then look to your left, that's the alleyway. So that's I believe that was the dentist's
Yeah,
office.
that is a dentist.
Okay. Yep. So then it's those trees 1 and 2 right there.
The two like on the fence line.
Yes. Yep. Kind of if you're on Islington Street, you can kind of see them both right through between the two structures there.
I think the
Sorry.
the one closest to the road has beautiful form, but it's approaching the windows
Yeah.
on the second floor and the roof line. If we could prune that,
Absolutely.
hate to touch it, it's so beautiful, but
Yeah.
it's
That was my first thought. It's like, well, I mean, obviously it's a walnut. It is going to be messy inherently because they drop.
yeah.
It was really easy to identify. You just look at the ground and you're like, oh my gosh. Okay. Yeah. But really, I didn't see anything. So like nothing outstanding with the tree that would make me even remotely consider a removal for
Okay,
these two trees.
I would agree.
I
with-
concur.
I
Yeah.
would agree with you that do some heavy pruning on that side,
Yeah.
but they're beautiful trees. And when you go down the Cabot side view, it's so dense there that we don't have a lot of big trees there. And I would hate to lose that going down that.
Absolutely. Especially because we're removing a box elder too.
Yeah.
It's sort of like, well, let's be rational here and, keep the two healthy trees that we can,
Peter, question about the house itself. At some point, the city will sell or whatever that property presumably.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we're the former property owner is suing the city for wrongful tax.
Okay.
Taking, whatever, I'm not sure
Yep.
the technical legal term,
Mhm.
but they're saying that we didn't follow process.
So these could become private
They will
Free
become private
at
eventually,
some point, yes.
Yeah.
Right.
but we won't be able to sell them until we clear up.
So
Tax stuff.
do we have a motion to recommend pruning of
So moved.
the two black
Both.
walnuts?
Definitely second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
I,
Thank you.
so we're gonna leave those trees right there and prune.
I think it's important to note, Jason, that when a resident asks for it to be put on the agenda, whether sometimes we agree, obviously as a committee, or whether the arborist or DPW agrees, it's our duty to put it on the agenda for discussion.
I'm sorry. I didn't know if there was something wrong with them that I didn't see when I looked at
Yeah.
them. I just was wondering kind of what was going on with the two of them.
Typically, these kinds of requests, I try my best to keep these sorts of things off the agenda, and I can usually convince someone, hey, this is what we should do. I don't see a strong path forward for removal. It just so happens that this one didn't quite
Okay,
get that way.
well, at least now I know they're okay and they're
Yeah,
gonna be,
absolutely.
and they're gonna be pruned and not falling. Thank you.
You're welcome.
You're here on,
I'm here for 199 Clinton, the Norway maple.
okay.
Yeah. I own 199 Clinton. My name is Catherine Cook. I have permits to demo the house and build a new single family house. There's a Norway maple directly in front of the house. The water and sewer lines are running mixed in with the root system of this Norway maple. The gas line was trenched out on the street side of the Norway maple when the gas line was put in, and to demo the house, I had to remove the water and sewer lines, so the whole house side of the tree was also trenched out. There's a picture of that. So I have concern with what roots are left for this large tree, and also in replacing the water and sewer lines. I spoke with Jim Tao of the Water Sewer Department. He recommended updating them all the way to the street with a 1-inch line, which is gonna happen eventually, I guess, to all the water lines. So there's additional work that needs to be done, which would impact the root system even more. So I was hoping, it's not my goal. I was talking to Max beforehand with a goal to save the trees, protect them. I have protective fencing up for a silver maple. It was not my intention to have to take the tree down, but now just with the work that has to be done, it seems like the best course would be just to take it down now instead of letting it slowly die off, because so many of the roots have been impacted.
Has everybody seen the picture
Yeah.
that was included in the email?
Yes.
Yeah, so we in doing our tree risk assessment training, the general argument for that really critical root zone is roughly defined as 3 times the diameter of the tree. So that tree was a 20-inch diameter tree. That trenching occurred within that critical root zone. So not only are there concerns about whether or not the tree is structurally sound, but a lot of those roots have been severed to support the continued growth and health of the tree in general.
Would you be, excuse me, Mr. Chairman, would you be willing to consider planting a replacement tree?
Definitely. It is mostly city property in front of my house. My house is, I think, 3 feet from my property line. If you look at the front yard, most of that is actually city property. I'm very willing to put something back there. Landscaping and grading will be part of the build process. So I am very happy. My plan is to put native plants in the yard, and I really want to go in that direction. So I'd be very happy to put something back in. But I have about 60 feet of yard frontage. So just keeping that in mind, and I do have, that is the right of way for all the utilities which come from across the street. So if there are trees that are appropriate to put there and won't be in the way of all the utilities, I'm very happy to do that. So whatever recommendations you had, I'd be willing to put something back in there. It would be about 2 years though, till the landscaping is happening.
Right.
Absolutely.
But when that does happen, I would definitely be willing to.
Mr. Chair, I move to remove the tree.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
I just had one more quick thing. Just with tree removal, to access the old utilities and update, they're mixed in with the roots now, so we will need to have even the roots, like if it's just cut off at the stump, we're still gonna need to hack away. When they remove the tree, did they remove the root system as well, or?
Depends on your contractor.
Okay, I just wanna know what to plan for if I'm gonna have to have my contractor do that.
Usually what we would recommend is you just have the contractor, they're cutting it down and they're gonna be digging your new utilities, just have them pull the
roots.
ball and the stump out.
Okay.
Bring the utilities in.
Okay,
Yeah,
Thank you.
if there are utilities mixed in with that root matter, what we typically do for our removals is we'll remove and then stump grind.
Mhm.
But if there are utilities mixed in with that, it's kind of it's a difficult process at that.
Well,
Yeah.
they're Replacing the utilities anyway.
they're all gonna get cut out to the street, but I mean, the gas line in the street is 3 feet maybe from the stump, so it is very close to the street, the main line in the street, so it's a weird, it's a very,
The gas line, they would have cut, those tree roots on their side of.
and that's the big thing, you had both sides of the tree that have now been,
The good thing is, I guess all the roots are cut on both sides, so it's.
Yeah.
it's not good.
well, 2 feet section on either side, but so just because it is a city tree, I wanted to make sure I would be able to then come in with my contractor and
Yep.
dig since it's been slated for
Yeah, so. what
removal,
happens
I
is
can go in and do that.
Your contractor will get an excavation permit
Mhm.
and our staff goes through, reviews it, and, if they say they have a stump removal, they'll just do the stump removal.
Okay, and how much time will we need for that permit to go in and remove ish, just the,
Ish max a week.
oh, okay. All
And
right,
it's usually 2 days, 3 days.
okay. Just wanted to, if it was gonna be like a month, I wanted to make
No,
sure
no,
we
no,
planned
it's
for,
a quick- It's a quick thing.
okay, perfect.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
you.
Thank you.
I'm so excited too.
So beautiful.
Oh,
Like,
thank
everything's
you.
top, but it's
Yeah,
like-
I like old houses. It wasn't my goal
Yeah,
to
you
knock the
destroyed
house
that
down.
part, so,
Yeah, yeah. So, I wanted to put something back that
It's-
looked like it had been
Yeah,
there.
it looks
Yeah.
beautiful.
Oh, thank you. Thanks, guys.
Stephanie?
I'm here to speak.
You can write out.
I'm Stephanie Campbell and I live at 1001 Islington Street. And I'm here to speak to the library's request for a tree to be memorialized for the librarian Joan Christie. And that would be, as I understand it, there's 2 trees that the DPW are going to plant in front of the library to replace ash trees that were removed. So I think the request is to make one, to memorialize one of those trees. And I'm definitely in support of that. Joan Christie was a dear friend of mine and also a member of our book group. And so I think it's appropriate because Joan was a lifelong resident of Portsmouth. She started working at the Portsmouth Public Library, I believe it was in the late 60s under Sherm Pridham. And later she worked for more than 20 years at the Portsmouth Public Library as the head librarian, and she retired in 2009. She was a member of the Athenaeum and a gardener, and she always supported preservation of open spaces and of planting trees and greenery to enhance the urban environment. Really, she was a wonderful person. I have to say, I don't think I was even aware of this committee before coming here today. And I think it's wonderful that work that you're doing. So anyway, I believe a memorial tree in front of the public library is especially appropriate because it honors both Joan's love of books and love of nature. And lastly, if possible, our book group and many members of the book group are also Portsmouth residents. And I'm speaking, we talked about this. And so I said, okay, I'll go to the meeting and support this request. But lastly, if possible, our book group would like to place a small plaque at the foot of the tree, simply saying in memory of Joan Christie, beloved librarian and dear friend, with her dates. And I don't, I kind of looked online to see, small plaques. I don't know if there's protocols that the city has about that, but that would be very meaningful to us and I believe many of the people whose lives she touched. So that's all.
Thank you.
Chairman, Mr. Chairman, if I may, I'm aware of this request, and I had spoken to, head librarian.
Christine.
Christine Freeze.
And if it was just the tree, this committee could go ahead and move forward with that. However, since it's a plaque, you're requesting a plaque as well, it needs to go to the city council for approval. I mean, Joan is worthy of, falls into the criteria of, the resident that's been involved in the community, that's contributed a lot. She definitely falls into the criteria. We have to, we have many, many requests related to putting plaques up and putting, memorials and things like that. And it becomes very challenging in that, everybody feels that their request is laudable or it should be tended to, but we've worked towards, making sure anything that's a memorial plaque that the council or anything like a written memorial or something like that that's permanent that we have to maintain and we have to, keep track of, gets council approval because it could quickly dilute the value of all these memorials throughout the city. Every bench, every tree had a plaque on it. And then it also becomes a maintenance challenge because, plaques get buried sometimes and all of a sudden you come across and you have no connection to who was this person? It was 20 years ago, 30 years ago. There's no connecting. In this case, we wouldn't forget, obviously. But that is the process. So what I would recommend is that the committee vote to support this and we can see the minutes can show that we support this effort. Then it would go, the request would go to the city manager's office. It would be put on the council agenda. And I can envision it moving through the council relatively easily.
Okay, and I meant to say the book group also would offer to pay for the plaque.
Yeah, that is the
Required.
the city would not be the one unless council voted to cover the cost.
If we didn't do the plaque, it would just be a memorial tree and we would know that it was, but there would be.
Yeah.
Okay,
It's Peter said, it's a fairly, well, I think it's a subjective process, it's a fairly easy process. If you just submit your request, then we can submit it to the city manager's office. It goes under the agenda and we just take it up in council and with a favorable committee support, it's likely to go through.
and you believe this is an appropriate request
Yeah,
for the plaque?
the-
Okay,
The challenge is we oftentimes get requests for people that have no connection to the city, that had no, not that they weren't great people, but they did not contribute to the public, the city of Portsmouth and the life of Portsmouth. Joan did. She was very involved, my kids, went to the library and know her. And so it's that's the type of person that the intent is to be able to support that type of thing and not have everybody and their brother get in, and so I played bridge with somebody, and he was a great bridge player. I want to put up a memorial statue for them.
Okay.
Which is actual example.
so the next, you're gonna put in a request to the city council?
You need to send a letter to the city manager's office outlining why Joan is a worthy candidate for putting a memorial plaque on. That the Tree and Greenery Committee has approved, or has voted support of this. And then just, what are the contributions that Joan has given to the city over time? And why is this a laudable thing to do?
Okay,
And Peter, that's a motion you just made to recommend.
That is my motion I just made.
Okay, it's seconded by Pat. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
thank you.
I would recommend talking to Christine. She can help shepherd it through.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
And also meetings being recorded, so if you want to go back and.
I was thinking I didn't write down
Yeah,
what Peter just said.
I've talked to Christine about it. She knows, if she has any questions, she can talk to me and we'll make sure it gets through.
Okay,
Okay?
great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And again, continue your good work.
It's the happiest
you.
committee.
Okay,
There's, Mr. Chair, there's a hand up.
do
Uh,
you have Deb Shag on today?
She said she was gonna.
Here we go.
Hey, there she is.
Oh, morning, Deb.
Will, go ahead.
Hi, hey, I assume that everybody has, seen the statement that I sent in. And I just wanted to go through that briefly with you.
What tree are you in reference to?
I'm sorry, it's, Will Bland, 790 McGee Drive.
Thank you.
So, just to, again, I sent the statement in, a couple of photos. And the point that I'm trying to make is that, we've gone through this, I went through the same process 3 years ago, and we went through the 2 remaining trees that were there and trimmed them, inspected them, did everything we could. But to my best knowledge, I don't know how you ensure that those root balls have the ability to keep those trees in place during some of these big windstorms. So that's our concern. This is the last tree left out of the 6 or 7 that were there, and they all have gone for the same reason, really, just the root balls. So my concern is this is going to happen in a easterly gale at some time, and instead of it falling on the power lines, the tree is going to fall on our house. And I don't think it's a matter of if, I think it's a matter of when. It's just, there's a long history here. Those trees up and down the street, the ones further up towards Maplewood they're in an entirely different situation. They just don't have the exposure that the ones down at our end of the street have. So that's that's the position we're taking, is that we don't want to have that tree land in the middle of our bedroom in the middle of some stormy night. So we're really concerned about it and hoping we can come to some conclusion that the tree needs to be removed. I mean, we tried pruning them, and we've treated those trees quite, we've injected them year after year, we've kept them healthy. And we loved them, but it's a scary situation for us.
Thank you, Will. Max, did you get an AJ?
Yeah, I was involved with pruning and thinning out the tree that happened to fail recently. So I have some pretty strong familiarity with these trees. Well, just in terms of the site history, has there been, maybe within the past 5, even 10 years, has there been any significant soil disturbances around these trees, like a new driveway or any kind of, any water line or any kind of, just so we have an understanding of what could have potentially been going on in the soil or around the root system there?
Nothing. The only thing that occurred on that street is the city extended the water line down past our house to further down and put a hydrant in down there so they could flush that water line. And that was that would have been on the street side. Yeah, obviously on the street side. That was done 3 or 4 years ago, I guess. And now maybe a couple of years ago. That's the only thing. And that probably would, in thinking of that would have been pretty close to that, coming in pretty close to that tree, because that tree sits pretty close to the street.
Yeah, I think shy of, getting in there and doing like exposing the roots with our air spade and really checking shy of that. I mean, I didn't see anything, nothing stood out to me looking at that cluster of roots that's still uprooted at your house right now. At least I don't know.
No, there was,
Stump has been-
all those trees are coming down in a westerly wind, so you know, that's been fortunate for us, not so fortunate for the power companies, but it's been fortunate for us, but they, it just, those gales in January that blew in there were all southeast, east, southeast, and that's coming straight across into our house, so that's a concerning thing.
As of this one, the bottom of that hole, I mean, you can see. Well, sorry, AJ Dupree, I sit on the committee as well, in the back sort of corner of the, if you're watching us online. But those trees, you know, have all been, you know, years ago were all backfilled. And the grade on all those trees were changed significantly. If you go in the trees sort of on the uphill portion of that, you can see there's a flare to the bottom of those trees. And those ones down your area just, you know, just don't have that. So a little extra compaction, a little extra water. That tree right now, you know, has water in the bottom of the hole. Just from the rain that we got the other night. So it's not, you know, it's not draining out as well as it, you know, wants to. Do you know what the trees, you said the trees were being injected. Do you know what you were putting in the trees or what was happening to them?
I mean, what we had, it's, I don't know, urban forestry has tended those, urban tree has been, tending those for us for years. They inject them against disease. It's basically to try to keep them, it's a recommended for disease issues and things like that. And they've been I mean, they look healthy, they've been healthy. You know, and again, yeah, they just keep falling over. I mean, I think the tree does look healthy, and I think pruning them 3 years ago and all that did a lot for them, but they still fall down.
All right, thank you, Will.
I mean, I think this kind of, AJ, as soon as you mentioned that all the extra material and the root flare being buried, this reminds me of us approving pine removals and maple removals out at Hislop Field. When that one tree came over and went on to, like onto the field infrastructure there. So, I think, I guess the option would be either to remove or if we wanted to remove that soil, but I feel like at this point, if it's been buried for so long, the damage is probably already done. And,
Right, whatever's already done to it.
yeah.
Do we know when, you know, I guess expecting the root ball, and if it's exposed, then you don't. You stop the, you know, you don't go all the way up the street. You said some of the stuff on the higher end.
Yeah, some of the, Dennis and I were talking about this one, you know, you can see the flares on the bottom. So I would, if we're gonna do that, you know, take this one out, maybe look, Max and I go back and look at the other ones, whatever else. I didn't want to dig on, you know, I was in my own private car and everything this morning, so I didn't want to go digging on somebody's property. But what I'd like to do is look at, you know, some of those other ones and see what the issue is. Right where this tree is, I mean, it's the bottom of the street, it's the bottom of the hill.
Yep.
It's collecting all the water, you know, everything else is going down there, and you can see, you know, either the city or the developer or whatever tried to make a lawn rather than have a big drop off to match the driveways. And the trees come out of the ground like a telephone pole. So just, you know, a little bit more rot, a little more decay, a little more, you know, all those kind of issues add up over time. And, you know, they're good, you know, strong, healthy trees, but I can understand this guy's concern. I mean,
So just for clarification, we're discussing 79 McGee, 1 Norway spruce, but there are 3
Yes.
next door.
Yep, so we're 790 McGee is what we're discussing now, and then the neighbor, after seeing me post the other tree,
Came on down.
approached and asked if I could also post the 3 spruce on his property as well.
I moved to go ahead with the recommendation on 790, and then on 800 do follow-up investigation and bring back if appropriate.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
Aye.
Oh,
Deb.
Vaughn Mall, 2 red oaks and poor condition.
That's putting it mildly.
Hard thing.
I've been trying to get in there to prune these trees, but upon further inspection, it doesn't make much sense, honestly.
So to
Yeah.
add to the part of the reason it doesn't make as much sense, the sewer, drain, water, all the utilities in that section of the city between Congress and Hanover have to be replaced. And we're gonna be, really building to building, impacting that area, and any of the trees in there are really gonna get. At one point I was talking to these guys about, air spading and digging, and it's just like, it's not, when you're talking about big pipe, you're talking about, yards and yards of material. It's not a hand work job, and the trees are gonna get, and they're already declining. So we're anticipating, that utility project's gonna get pushed forward on the schedule. It was intended to be a couple years out, but recent, indications are that there's some sections of sewer line that are collapsing. So we need to get in there sooner than later.
Here, do we have like obviously we will place within that, because it's such a beautiful
Yeah.
addition, and it's, in the summertime, it really kind of ties that area together.
Yeah.
I assume we have a plan, or will have a plan to kind of.
We will have a plan. We haven't, the design is just getting started. But like any of our projects, especially a project like this, we'll have, input. So
I would hope that we'd be able to, obviously right now, kind of in those trees, we have the lights and all of that. Obviously, if we went with a smaller tree, we wouldn't be able to potentially do stuff like that. So if maybe we make sure that kind of like on commercial where we,
catenary lights.
yeah, you know what I mean? If we could look at something like that, I think anything that we can do for those kind of side but main corridors, especially to brighten them up at night.
Mhm.
I always think about a safety element. I mean, at Cup of Joe during the summer, we pay and keep just our alleyway lights on because it just is a really dark cut through, and I think sometimes Vaughn can feel that way too.
Yep.
So just making sure, I know you guys do a great job. I just have to voice it, making sure we keep that. The city has done such a good job in the last few years to like beautify that space and make it a real comfortable gathering space.
Yeah.
Just making sure we stay true to what we've done.
So we have a,
I have a question, Peter, just a
Yes.
quick one. So the lights in the trees, and you see them more and more everywhere. Those don't harm the trees at all?
Sorry, go.
No, you go.
They do over time. If the lights are put in trees and either suspended out of the trees, however the light is in there, that tree is gonna eat up that wire. So if the wire gets caught down the crotch, the tree, continues to grow and fit in there and that kind of stuff. So some of the towns that, are adamant about having their, lights in the trees and that kind of stuff, we work with a couple of different areas to get them to remove the lights every once in a while,
Rewrap.
put them back in the tree. But there's a time span of that, and there's a labor in that. The best time to remove the lights is, now, just before the bark, so, everything gets tender and spring's coming. It's slow to get here, but spring's coming. Take the leaves out now and leave them out until summertime. The problem is everybody wants lights and, all that kind
Yeah.
of stuff.
Yeah.
So the other thing we've done is we worked with a couple of towns, and this is just an experiment that we have, is we're actually suspending the lights with little plastic and rubber straps. That the hope is that those straps can either be moved around, or the wind will, slowly move those around as well.
So
I mean, like sort of like when you brace a tree with.
Yeah, I mean,
Cable.
when we tie up, max ties up trees, that kind of stuff, the whole idea of those ties is to give it a little bit of structure, but not to,
Right.
tent peg it to the ground.
Right.
But Max has taken all the straps off within a year or two.
Yeah.
These, sometimes people want, lights in the trees forever. The problem becomes, once the tree eats up that one wire,
Yeah.
it does it, 50 different times. Somebody tries to take those wires back out of the tree because now they're not working. And then they do the damage to it.
Yeah,
Um,
interesting.
Again, it's one injury in one side, no big deal. But one injury here, then you got 20 injuries in the tree, all those add up. It's just rot and decay. Some tree species will take to lights better than others. Just because they're tougher barked.
Interesting. Thank you.
Can I just ask a question?
yes.
This is Deb. Could we possibly, these trees are just, they really are a cooling station for Vaughn Mall. Can we squeak out another summer
For
with
the-
these trees?
For these two oaks specifically?
Yeah. I
I
mean, is it going to, is it gonna, is it a hazard, or can we squeak out another summer with them, since they, in light, thinking that they are cooling stations for people?
A lot of these two oaks have some significant dieback. So if we were to
Okay.
leave the risk of, some of those, and they're oaks, so I'm not as worried if it were a different tree, but I'd be worried that something could become detached and fall on someone walking in Vaughn Mall.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So definitely side of the cooling station is that people spend a lot of time.
Under
Right,
trees.
underneath
Yes.
So we have a,
Motion to remove the trees.
I'll second.
Dennis made the motion, Pat seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We skipped, I skipped, 373 Cuts Avenue.
Yes, 373 Cuts Avenue. So it's a dead end section of Cuts off of Michael Sushi. Oh my God.
Susie.
Sushi, not sushi, not sushi. And the homeowner across the street would like to turn that area into an adopt a spot, and they'd be the sponsor. So the first phase of that would be to get in there and cut down. It's a box elder, two apples of a decent size, and then there's one walnut there as well. Yeah, that's kind of it. So then it's going to be excavated. What will go back in will be shrubs and some ornamental trees, and it'll be just a nice little spot. It was a previous dumping spot, as you can tell, with the mounds of just material that are there, and there's trash all over the place. So I think it'd be a really nice net positive for that community down there.
It'll look really nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Driving down there, I noticed the signs on the driveway, don't turn around in this
Yeah.
driveway. And so the only alternative was to back up
Into
through the intersection.
yeah, just
Mhm.
completely reverse out of there. Yeah.
That didn't seem like a good thing. So would it be possible that as part of that, there would be like a little area to help people turn around if they can't turn around in that driveway?
Yeah, I can, Warren Hollowell does he's heading up the adopt a spot, so I can talk to him, and then he can speak to the homeowner across the street and see. But yeah, kind of seems, it's very inconvenient to not be able to turn around at a dead end.
That's sort of a contradiction because the homeowner is adopting the
Spot.
spot, but they
Yeah.
don't want anyone
When
turning around in their
Sure.
driveway. So if they're gonna own that,
Yeah,
then it's sort of like stay away.
Right.
I have a question, and I think Deb and I have talked about this before, of how we as a city manage our adopt a spot, and whether that's something that should be more under the purview of this committee, or we should be reaching out and trying to figure out ways to promote obviously doing things that are not staff like taking up a huge amount of staff time, but I guess I don't even know how we really deal with adopt a spots. I mean, I know that sometimes we drive around and you can see a space was adopted, and then at some point the sign's still there, but the commitment has fizzled out. And I guess, how do we manage our adopt a
So
spots?
we have a list of all the adopted spots. So we have a GIS layer
Yep.
on the city's mapping system. Warren Hollowell, along with, used to be Amy Chastain, who's no longer with us. She moved on, she hasn't passed away. Did, manage that. It has always been, kind of an extracurricular activity. But it is something that goes kind of ebbs and flows depending upon, the interests of the residents. So we try to, annually reach out to everybody
Mhm.
and send a note saying, we'll provide materials if there's things that, safety vests and things like that, if you're out in the street area, and we help coordinate that, annually.
Would it be helpful or make sense if the committee took on some of a role within that, or do you feel like that's just an added layer of?
I'd be fine with that. I mean, if that's something that the committee would like to take on, we could report, say, okay, monthly here, annually, or whatever, springtime, here's what we have for sites, here's what's not, currently,
I just,
active. And, if there's opportunities, and you're speaking to anybody, and they say they're interested, and you can say, okay, here's the map, you can look to this spot. There should be, at some point, I thought we had something.
and I just may have
So it,
not clicked the right
the
clicker.
with, there will be additional effort from staff necessary. We would have to make sure we update the maps, present them to you, and
Okay.
facilitate that. And that's not I'm not saying we shouldn't do that. And if the committee is interested in that type of thing, we will, we'll put together a map. We can do a brief presentation and say, okay, here are all, I think this is close to 100 adopted spots in the city. Here are the ones that we have known people who are still active. Here are the ones that we're not sure of, and here are the ones that are fallow.
I just know that there's been, and again, and I don't know if this then just maybe becomes a like a line item on the website when people are talking about it, but I know like the Eco Club has, some members of that have asked me like, oh, can we help with adopt a spots, or do we have like an adopt a spot day? And I just, as we think about things that we can do for community, just kind of awareness of our green spaces and the things that get upkeeped. Obviously, other communities do beach cleanup day and certain things like that. And so I was just thinking like maybe we do an adopt a spot cleanup day. Just thinking of reaching out. I have a student who works for me who's on the Eco Club, and she's like, we would love to like help out and do things like that. So just figuring out ways, and I can get with you offline to see how we can,
Sure.
use some of the volunteer hours the kids have.
We can come in and do a brief presentation on where we're at.
Yeah, very brief, like a slide.
I support all that.
I know you would.
I love adopt a spots. I think they're a real avenue for citizens to get involved.
Yeah.
I think she just got elected to be in charge of that.
Wow.
Clarification, that was adopted.
Not sure. Do we have a motion on 373 cuts?
So moved.
Second. Second by Michael. All in favor?
Aye.
I
Alumni Field, One Red Maple,
Dun, 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 dun.
recommended by the city.
Yeah, out at Alumni Field, this was a nice little history lesson for me, but Market Street wasn't always there.
Mhm.
So there used to be houses where these trees are kind of above Alumni Field, and Public Works has recently gone in and removed. So it looks the way it does now because tons and tons of asphalt were removed from like in that understory, like in the soil there, because they were like driveways or what have you for homes that were there previously. So I just thought that was a nice little, at least for me, I'm not a Portsmouth native, so I always thought Market Street was always there from the dawn of Portsmouth, right? But yeah, so this red maple specifically has some significant structural issues. That site is to be turned into a little picnic area. And I wouldn't feel comfortable having a picnic out there eating underneath that tree. Some major limbs also have some sections of decayed wood. Yeah, let's get that thing out of there.
Okay, do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Second by Joe, motion by Peter. Any discussion? On favor?
Aye.
I think that's all of our removal requests. No landscape plan requested. The next item is trees along walkways to the dog park. And we have some information from Salita Morgan, I believe.
Yeah.
I sent around. And I know that Pat had been in touch with Zelita,
Mm-hmm.
and I ran into her at the supermarket, and so and AJ had expressed a lot of interest in this topic.
So we have some issues in our place at the Urban Forestry Center with this very issue. We've got 3 trees that have been limping along as long as I possibly can limp them, and they're going to be coming out this year. The big white fir, if you're familiar with our driveway, there's a big white fir right at the edge of our arboretum. It's 100% due to dogs.
Mm.
And maybe we should explain, if you haven't seen the agenda, Well, it really doesn't help you very much.
They're not chewing on it.
They're not chewing on it. They gotta, it's a fire hydrant.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I reached out to the city of Portland, had a news article on this a little while ago. So I reached out to the city arborist over there and talked to them about it. And, you know, it's a big issue. It's partially because, you know, obviously one dog goes and, you know, all his buddies gotta go, everything else. But the urine is very acidic. And it can actually change the pH of the, you know, of the soil itself. So those white rings that you're seeing in the picture, you know, are real. It does impact the bark. It changes the structure of the bark. Some people claim that it actually kills the bark over time. I don't know if it completely does that or not. I'll know better after I take my tree down and take it apart to see what's going on inside the bark. But if you want to see our tree at our place, you know, just there's a little parking lot. Norman made it years ago for the dog walkers to sort of park down on the corner of our driveway. Just because we need a little bit more parking sometimes with big meetings, and you know, there's 3 trees right in that corner. It's the first fire hydrant the dogs come to. And so we've been talking about leaving the stump tall. To leave the stump there with it, you know, but it's gonna look like an ugly tall stump. So we're gonna have to do something with that. But you know, it is definitely, it is.
Is there, or have you seen, or when talking to Portland, is there like a, you know, are they leaving stumps so that we're attracting dogs still to one area? Are we putting up fake something to attract the dogs, and maybe, I don't know, like porous material around it so that we all see it in our yards, right? We see like the patches.
So it's a congregation of, you know, way too, you know, one patch, one dog, no big deal. Again, that one light in the tree.
Yeah.
That's when you get 50 dogs every day, every morning at same time.
I'm sorry, I
so
do take my dog there too.
Portland has been taking down the trees. They have, you know, similar Market Square
Yeah.
that we have here. And they've been taking those trees down and trying to replace them with more tolerant species. But they've been talking about putting fences. A lot of the trees in that area, you know, just raised curbs.
Yeah.
So similar to what we have to protect the tree from the plow guy and, you know, everybody else. But they've been looking at trying to put some fencing around the bottom of those trees as well. But the question is how tall a fence and, you know, all those kind of things. They don't have any solutions to it.
Is there downtown, and correct me, I'm not sure what the terminology is. Obviously with our trees, when you say Market Square, I know we're talking about something else.
Yep.
With our trees downtown, we have kind of that like,
Forest paved material.
yeah.
Yeah.
Does that help protect at all, or?
The urine
Right.
or other liquid,
Yep.
it helps it pass a lot quicker,
Yep,
but there are limitations to that because when we excavate
yep,
to apply and put that porous pave down, take some material out and then put in essentially like a pea gravel.
yep,
And then we put that porous pave material on top that you see on the surface. So it'll allow for that to pass through those first maybe 4 inches at most,
mm-hmm,
but then it just kind of hits that root system and
okay.
so it helps a little to some, you know, but it's not
I almost,
this perfect solution either.
yeah, I didn't know if it at all acted as kind of a deterrent at all, or
No, they're getting on the structure of the tree itself.
south, okay.
The
I have a
it's an
girl dog.
interesting Thing, I mean, ultimately, you know, urea becomes a nutrient.
Sure,
It
yeah.
has ammonification, has to nitrify, denitrify, and then, you know, is there a way you can enhance the
Speed the
biota around the
process.
tree to facilitate that process?
Hmm.
You know, so you take you do what nature does eventually naturally,
Faster.
which is create a fertilizer.
Yep.
But you somehow give, I mean, we do it on a wastewater side, you have nitrifying bacteria, but the first step is to convert it to ammonia. Then the nitrifying bacteria use the ammonia.
I would think having planted material, sacrificial planted material, whether it's, you know, annuals or perennials or whatever else.
Yeah.
To keep the dog at a distance from the tree itself. You know, the unfortunate solution to pollution is dilution. So you're just trying to spread it out over, you know, over the.
No,
I know, let's put on a shirt.
solution
Let's
to
raise
pollution
some
is a
money for the
similar
committee.
capacity.
But years ago, it was always
I know.
just dilute, push it in the ocean, let it go away, whatever. So the unfortunate thing with that tree is that, you know, they're actually going on the bark
Mhm,
of the tree itself.
Right,
Mhm.
right.
So having,
That's why I was thinking. If you
Having a
spray
whole
the
bunch of
bark or you
hostas,
put-
right.
You put something around the
Sure.
base of the tree,
Sure.
substrate for the tree to live in, but you'd end up suffocating the tree or killing it.
but put a bunch of thorny roses around the bottom of every one of these trees, the dog would then, you know, do his business in the perimeter of that box.
Yeah.
Rather than adjacent I
I have-
thought about that.
Just two thoughts.
See,
Is
for our
it-
conversation.
Just to.
Yeah, a million thoughts, because I had never thought of this as a problem. But I did some reading on it, and they've been talking about it for years. I mean, New York City, there was a big article about New York and what would they do with this problem back in 2007. So it's new to me and new to some of us, but it's not new. And so I walked by the Parrot Avenue trees and I could see exactly what Zelita had pointed out in her photos. And it's amazing. I mean, I'm not a scientist, so I don't understand what's actually happening, but you can see what she's talking about. And then that made me think about all these beautiful little trees we have planted in Haven Park, where a lot of people take their dogs.
Yep.
And they're just standing there, these little sentinels, and there's no protection at all.
We took those, we had protective snow fencing up for
Yes.
2 years or 3 years. We just removed those this winter. We did that for our trees next to the dog park as well, also removed. So we have that 2-year establishment period that we monitor mulching, snow fence. But after that, you know, we have this year's 150 trees and last year's 200 to maintain.
add
So it
up.
becomes a
Yeah.
question of,
It's
you know,
a
where are
lot
we
of
putting our
maintenance.
resources? It's a lot of
Yes.
maintenance. So,
How
so,
about education?
yeah.
Yeah.
Can we put something in the
We-
newsletter
And then-
about?
We've been thinking about doing some, and it won't work in every
Area.
every site, every area, but we've been talking about doing like a living mulch, so planting myrtle spurge sort of around the base of the tree
Hmm.
to just
Absor-
just have something else there that, again, a living mulch, right? So that would hopefully encourage animals to stay away from the base of the tree and not maybe relieve themselves on the tree itself, but
Do we have, you know, as you kind of mentioned, ideas for like trees that are more resistant to you know, if we're looking at removing these that clearly get a lot of action, are we looking at replacement? Are we thinking hedging or I guess, is it something that, I mean, I
Nothing
can
that
volunteer
I've-
to do some more research. I
yeah,
mean,
nothing that
you know
I've,
more than I
you
do.
know, made forefront in as far as like a project, but
I
don't know.
I think
Yeah.
we should do some research and figure out if there's alternatives, and education is the first step. But I can tell you now, a lot of the dog owners they have a hard enough time picking up the dog's poop.
Yes.
Let alone,
Yeah.
helping 'em.
I feel like I just walk around picking up
Yeah.
other people's
Yeah.
dogs.
Yeah, one of the things that the article, I believe it was the article about New York City, they were saying you have to train your dog to pee in the street along the curb.
Hmm.
I don't know how you
So-
do
I
that.
think a lot of people too in that,
It's a great
I mean,
idea.
I don't go to the dog park anymore, but I think a lot of people try to get their dogs to relieve themselves before going into some of the more like into the actual fenced off dog park or into some of like the more interactive areas. I think, at least as a dog owner, I like would always be, let's go to the potty so you're not peeing on another dog.
Yeah.
So I think again, it's like how far of a reach are we looking at?
I've just I've been here for 4 years. And I remember when Haven Park was opened up for off-leash dogs, and I was actually pretty upset about that.
Yeah.
Not only is it increased, you know, animal waste, but it's increased foot traffic. So what is that doing to our soil composition? How is that going to affect these mature oak trees that are there? And obviously, when it's in a dog park and it's sand and dogs relieving themselves there, it's not really impacting. It's going to pass through the sand and it's going to disperse through the ground. There's maybe one tree in that dog park at South Mill, which I'm sure I'm going to go and look at that today and see what the base of that tree looks like. But when we have a park that we have all of this, I always forget the name of this park, but it's between Islington and State. With
Goodwin.
Goodwin.
Also, thank you. Also an off-leash dog park. So
Mhm.
I just, you know, I have a dog. I completely understand and empathize with the people of Portsmouth who want to go and take their dog to a park and let them run around and do all these things. But Haven will be an interesting thing to keep our eye on for a little bit because it's,
Maybe it feels like, and I'm sorry that I'm just so out there today. It feels like this to me. I'm always trying to think about what from this committee should be brought up potentially at a council meeting, like just as an update from this committee. And I feel like this to me sounds like something that maybe the three of us get together and I have like a little, you know, I think it,
recommend not doing that.
Yeah.
listen, I'm a dog owner, so I feel like dog owners can.
You won't get reelected if you do
Dog
that.
wars.
I told you that
we're dog wars?
I'm not saying to say, hey, we're gonna take this park away. I bring my dog there. I love it.
Yeah.
But just as like an informational item, again, as one dog owner of two dogs to all the other dog owners, is that we have to be reminder of being mindful. I think the city does a good job of putting receptacles out about making sure the signage, but again, I feel like we have to remind people to be mindful. Cause I do think people just, you think like, oh, it was one time, it's aloof. It's happened to me. I ran out of dog bags. It's like, you know, but then you go back. But again, not saying that we're gonna take this away. I would be adamantly against that because I love sitting there with my dogs in the middle of the day when there's nobody there,
Be
but
happy to chat with you.
okay.
About this.
Listen, I'm not worried about getting reelected. I'm out. I'm anyways.
As a person living on the corner of Cabot and Middle Street, I want to say that this hawthorn tree I have takes great abuse. There's not a dog that can go past that tree and do something. And then the ivy, that ivy, nothing, I see more dogs peeing on that ivy, nothing happens to it. So just a thought. And when we move forward on Von Mall definitely needs to be thought about as a place where animals enjoy themselves.
I think education is maybe the only tool we have. We can't enforce.
Concur.
I mean, I just a
Yeah.
friendly reminder. I mean, we put up signs about the Emerald Ash Borer.
Yeah.
I'm not advocating we put up signs everywhere, but maybe a reminder in a
Yeah.
city newsletter.
And we
every
did
once
like
in a
the Think
while.
Blue, so maybe we talked to Monty about releasing that video that was done with Bob Sullivan. If you haven't seen it, it's hilarious about picking up dog waste. Cause there still is the notion for a lot of people like, oh, it's in the woods, it's gonna break down, it's gonna be blah, 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 but it still has like negative, like it's going into our wastewater. It's going into our treatment plants. It's causing more. So maybe it's just a relaunch of the work that's already been done. Like you said, adding it to the
Just a little reminder every so
Yeah.
often that, you know.
Max, you said, we're using the porous pavement. There's some sort of gravel you use is that?
Yeah, it's, so when we're, think like the tree wells, the tree pits that are in Market Square. When we,
What kind of
Yeah.
gravel did you refer to it as?
pea gravel, pea
But
stone.
that was appropriate.
Okay. Wow, nice.
Okay, committee number update. I think this came from Stephanie,
that we're down.
that we should consider a new assistant chairperson. So maybe the next, I don't know what the mechanics of that, since we've never had an election of any sort. Next time we should,
I second.
You better be paying attention, man.
Wait a minute, what's the?
Pat's been nominated for.
Peter already
assistant chair.
nominated her, so that was our process.
And
call the
what?
question.
As-
The assistant chair.
Exactly.
Good.
Yes.
I think Pat's done an outstanding job for this committee. She's thoughtful. She researches things. She's just been an amazing contributor to the committee. So I would strongly support.
Same. Pat, do you support your own nomination? I see your hand.
I see two other people on this committee who are more seasoned than I.
I think we should
Um,
end the debate now and
well, thank you.
So-
for this.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Hi,
And
thanks,
Just
yeah.
like that.
I was.
congrats.
Congratulations.
This brings up a different question. There's a you know,
Member.
the assistant chair, but also the, vacant spot.
Right.
So how does,
Mhm.
I know the mayor was looking into that, but I don't know what's happened on it.
So my question is do we just sit here passively waiting for someone
No.
to
We can recruit
give the
people.
mayor a letter saying, hey, I'd like to
Interested.
serve on the tree committee, or do we seek out people and?
I think maybe we should do that, or can do that individually. I don't know if the committee should say that, you know, well, we want.
I think it's difficult because the mayor ultimately makes, and the council approves,
Right.
but I think if there are people that I would I agree with Peter, encourage them to put their name in the hat if they want to get involved. This is a great committee.
I was just gonna say, I've seen you here multiple times. You say it's a happy committee.
Don't vote on the stuff that's on your property.
Yeah, yeah, you don't vote on stuff that's next to your property. But yeah, we can also make sure the city clerk has it posted under openings.
Yep.
So that people, when they click on the city website for the volunteer, okay, I can email Kelly and make sure that that's on there. But yes, I think, I think what happens with a lot of committees is if you know somebody who could be interested, it's, when you're filling out these forms, as we all did, there's a letter of recommendation and the person should speak to the chair and then it goes up that way. But I think if you know somebody, I don't think it hurts.
Arbor Day update. Anything new on Arbor Day?
Another Stephanie Secord suggestion is planting a hackberry for Dick Adams
Yeah.
this Arbor Day. And I thought it was a terrific idea because I wasn't able to put anything else together, unfortunately, for this year, but I do think that is such a terrific idea. We don't have any ordered through our typical means, but we can very well find one at a local nursery. And I can start working on that if that's something we find we all
And are
find
we
good.
thinking over here?
Yeah, probably in Langdon Park somewhere. I think
I was
even
thinking
if
over here.
so, I guess this kind of dovetails into our planting for this year.
Mhm.
We're getting our trees like a week and a half earlier than
Oh,
the past couple of years. So we might not be able to remove, was it a red maple that's in Langdon Park that's posted in there now? It's still
Yeah.
there. Yeah, we haven't removed it. So in the event that we can't get in there and remove that tree and put this hackberry someplace nearby, there's absolutely room either in Langdon or in another park somewhere where we can
Right.
put that in. So,
unfortunately, I will not be here for Arbor Day.
ugh.
I know it. I can hear the crutch in the room.
But yeah, that was a Stephanie idea and I really liked it. And I think that's a terrific thing to do. So
Perhaps Dick may have a location that he's
yeah,
interested
Yeah.
in
I can,
forwarding to us.
Good.
Yeah.
Update, anything new on the planting for?
the 25th of March is when we're getting our trees. All the sites have been
It
located.
is early.
I'm submitting dig safes, starting this week, actually. And yeah, we're getting geared up. We have to start really thinking about our tools that we need to use and getting all of the logistics in line. Because as soon as they get here, that very next day, we're going to be ready to start planting. So the first, we have 40 trees going into Panaway Manor because that first phase of the sidewalk and road project is complete. So we're going to get in there and we're putting greater than it's 10 trees greater than what we've removed out of there. So which I think is great. Obviously, it doesn't replace full mature trees, but it's a really great start and that community's looking forward to
It's a
it.
great project. I mean, walking through there.
Yeah.
I've been showing pictures to other communities, mostly Maple Haven, when they're discussing sidewalks of like,
Yeah.
go to Panaway.
Yeah.
It really has changed, like there's the scape of it for the better, I think.
Oh, no question about it.
It's, you know what I mean? And when I was campaigning and knocking on doors, everyone was like, even people who were like, I wasn't really sure, are like,
Yeah.
this is great.
Yes.
That's nice. You know what I mean?
I'd found a lot of tree planting sites in the Maple Haven area in the back of my head. I'm like, well, if that project goes through, then that'll be the opportunity to come in here and do them and not waiting and
Yeah.
planning appropriately is to not potentially impact those trees if they're already planted. So
Yeah,
anyway, just a little
Awesome.
tidbit.
thank you.
Any old business? Any new business?
Old business, I wanted to know what's the status of the Jeff Clark tree?
I have a meeting next Thursday and we'll discuss species and all that. So the location is still in front of the house there, next to the driveway in the right of way. But yeah, that's it so far.
It's gonna be great.
And then I wanted to kind of do a plug for Sustainability Fair on April the 14th. Max, you're going. What are you doing there?
We are gonna talk about tree planting, and if the stars align and the New Hampshire State Nursery gets all their trees out of the ground in time, we'll have actual living trees to hand out when we're there. So
Great.
Might be, just not for this year, but a toss up that may be a good day to maybe do a sign up for a community cleanup day. Whether that is like we all volunteer at the urban forestry or at one of the parks or, and I just think
and
that,
include Adopt a Spot maybe as a
And
Yeah.
include Adopt a Spot.
Yep.
Exactly. That's what I was thinking. And the last thing is, AJ, did any of our schools, are any of our schools participating in the school canopy program?
They did
through the
not,
state?
they did not last year, and the applications are just hitting the street now, so I haven't heard from Liz. I'm gonna be meeting with her today, but I don't think anybody from Portsmouth has applied. I know they did not last year.
And the schools are fully aware that this program is available and
Yeah, we sent it out through the Department of Education a little while ago, and that gets out to all the teachers and teacher groups and all that kind of stuff. So we use their network to get it out.
Okay.
So people that aren't aware, we did a canopy enhancement program, a pilot program last year. Went to a dozen schools around the state. We provided the trees. Students had to be involved, science class, somebody, whatever at the school had to be involved. The students planted the trees. So we went to Nashua and Manchester and Concord, all the way up to Bath, over to Lebanon. And so we provided the trees, they had to provide the labor, and they had to develop a whole plan for their trees. So we worked with them to figure out where where the trees are going, all that kind of stuff, what trees they wanted. So it required 3 or 4 site visits back and forth to schools between our staff. Corporate Extension helped out with it as well. So it's out right now. We got picked up by a couple of people. I talked to a reporter from somebody in Concord, and then I talked to a radio person. So it's getting traction out
I'm
there
reading
right
your
now.
quote right now. Even though New Hampshire is the second most forested state,
Oh.
it's important to know that schools only have a few and some none.
We went to a bunch of schools, they had no trees, anywhere near the school building.
I wonder if part of that is like kids climb them and then they
It's
fall.
a tough situation, so that's why, like the ones we planted in Manchester, we actually worked with the park
They pick up.
department and the school to make essentially a giant raised bed for the trees.
Yeah.
So we get the kids to give those trees, we tried to work with, 300 kids at some of the elementary schools just to get them to stay out of that space.
Yeah.
So we defined a space for those trees to grow in, and put that back for subsequent site visits.
I think we're lucky that a couple of our elementary schools are like in
You know how to
neighborhood.
Yeah, Don Darrow's got plenty of trees all the way around it,
Yeah.
but they built an outdoor classroom. Chuck worked with them quite a bit.
Says
Came
safety-
up
safety
wood from our
clouds.
Yeah.
place to bring back to Don Darrow to make an outdoor classroom, so they're fortunate. to
Peter,
have
thank
that.
you. Okay,
You, Peter.
Sorry, guys.
that's the end of it.
Yes.
Max in charge.
Oh, boy.
Gotta hit the switch.
That's in charge.
That's a check.
Uh,
Okay,
we all done?
Okay, thank you, AJ. I
Yeah.
appreciate that.
thank you.
All righty.
Congratulations.
Meeting adjourned.
This is a hack
Bye,
rate.
everyone.
Bye, Deb.
Congratulations, Pat.
Oh,
Yes, congratulations.
5 years.
Laugh.
Okay.